All right. Welcome back to 10 Minute Talks. My name is Lucas Crisp. I'm a student at UNCC, and I'm here with
Martin.
So we are going to be drafting Democratic politicians that we think are most likely to not only run in 2028, but win a Democratic primary. There's been a lot of talk about this nationally of who's going to fill that void after 2024,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this will be pretty interesting. So, hear me out. One round of rock paper scissors to get for the first pick. Does that work?
Sure.
All right. Rock paper scissors shoot. All right, you got first pick.
Whitmer.
Whitmer?
Yep.
Good pick, good pick. What do you think is her biggest strength going into the primary?
Well, let's see. So in 2022, right, in the midterms, obviously she improved her margins on the her reelection, but also the state house and the state senate flipped for the first time in like 40 years, and she got a lot of stuff done, like gun safety regulation, women's rights, healthcare, etc. So, and also when she won for the first time, she also did also some bipartisan legislation with both Republican-controlled houses when she started. So I feel like she would be a more safe, moderate pick. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, she'll be available in 2027. She'll be
Because
free.
her term is ending, so.
Yeah, that's a strong pick. She was pretty high up on my board, I gotta say. All right, so with my first pick, I'm gonna take one who, if you'd asked me a week ago, I think would have been like my third or fourth pick. But given some recent news, I'm gonna go Pete Buttigieg. He recently turned down running for Michigan's governor, and I think that's really clearing the way for a run.
Actually, Senate.
Oh, sorry, Sen. My bad. Misspoke. But yeah, so I think he's really likely to run. And on top of that, I think he's coming off a lot of good press with those Fox News interviews.
Yes.
And he's taking advantage of a lot of the mediums that I feel like Democrats didn't take advantage of in like 2024. Like even as stupid as this, like the Jubilee videos and stuff like that. Little things can appeal to casual voters. So I think he's extremely likely to run now. And I'm a Pete guy, so I would vote for him, and I think he'd do pretty well. So moving on to your second pick.
Which one? I'm just thinking of the names. I'm just thinking of the names.
What databases I have?
Newsom probably.
That's a good one.
AWS, then we had a RDS.
Do you
RDS instance.
But given recent news,
Yeah, I was about to ask.
like his podcasts with like
Charlie Kirk
and Steve Bannon.
Were you guys want to ban it?
Yeah.
I did not see. I saw the Charlie Kirk one. I did not. Wow, that is.
So
okay,
I feel that he would not be the go-to pick, but maybe it might be a good proponent of like getting out the vote or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think he is a pretty good communicator.
Yes.
And I think that could really be a big strength for him. Okay, let's see. Moving on to my next pick. You took the next two off my board. Like I kind of had an idea like 4 or 5 I'd probably choose, and you took 2 of them so far. Let's see. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go Wes Moore.
Okay.
I think he's also a really good communicator. I think he has some branding to build
Yes.
before 2028. But I think that's very possible. I know he's already getting out there. Like he did a little thing with the Baltimore Ravens, where like he went to their practice and spoke to them. And I think just little appearances like that can build his reputation and brand more. And like I said, I think he's a really effective communicator. And I think he can reason with like more independent voters who may be off-put by like someone like Gavin Newsom, who's a good communicator as well, but like has a lot of negative press to go along with that. So that's kind of my rationale behind Wes Moore. So back to you.
Josh Shapiro.
Mhm.
Okay, Josh Shapiro. Well, I think he'll do really well. Like, if you close your eyes and hear him speak, he sounds a lot like Obama,
Okay,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
he can kind of have that kind of charisma too. But also, when he ran for governor in 2022, obviously he ran against a far extremist candidate, but he's still well liked by Republicans. Enough Republican support. So I feel like he would do well as like obviously a moderate Democratic candidate
Mhm.
too. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean I feel like that's like a really popular pick right now, and
Mm-hmm.
like you said, he has that charisma, that likability.
He would be
for
my
sure.
first VP pick
I agree. I was watching.
if he was with Whitmer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I saw something the other day that was the biggest like what ifs in recent Democratic history, and pretty I forgot what the number, but pretty high up there was what if Josh Shapiro was the VP pick for Harris?
Yeah.
Do you think that would have made a difference?
It wouldn't have made a difference of her winning, but it would have made it closer.
I agree. My I guess my one concern, because I mean, you know, like you said, he's likable, charismatic. He's pretty high up on everyone's board. I feel like. The one thing that would concern me with Shapiro is I know he has a very pro-Israel stance.
Yeah.
So in terms of getting out of a primary, he definitely could still do it. But I guess that would be like my one reservation if that might motivate enough voters to maybe look another way.
Yeah.
But definitely strong pick for sure. Okay, next. I think. Okay, I'm gonna go with Andy Bashir.
A good pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. We've seen the story before, like someone who may not be necessarily the biggest going into a presidential run back in 2024 comes out of it looking pretty good, and I think he could. I know he was high up on the VP pick for Harris.
Yeah.
And I think he has a lot of good press going for him. I think again, just building that brand, like kind of like Wes Moore, building that exposure, even more. I think could go a long way, and I think he could. I think he can make it out of a primary. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
In I think the last election that he ran, this was re-election in 2023. I think he won 39% of Republican support in Kentucky. So he could also create that crossover appeal.
Yeah, can definitely draw those moderates, moderate conservatives, independents.
Most popular Democratic governor of all the governors now. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my pick. Going back to you, this will be your fourth pick.
Huh. Who would it be? I'm just gonna say it. Roy Cooper.
I love it.
Well, obviously, he was our governor. He has never lost a race, right? In his 35-year career in politics, he has that kind of Southern Democratic feel, like a Bill Clinton type,
Yes.
or like an Al Gore type. So I feel that, but I think the one con is he's 67, right? But he could also be a very strong VP pick,
I agree.
or maybe a cabinet pick if a Democratic candidate was going to win. So I feel like he would be a good VP pick and maybe a presidential pick.
Yeah. Personally, I know before Tim Walz was announced, Roy Cooper was the one I wanted.
Me too.
I mean, even look at North Carolina. You very rarely come across someone who's just like, man, I hate Roy Cooper. You know what I mean? Like, I know Republicans who like Roy Cooper.
Yeah, because governor's races have been primarily won by Democrats. Yeah.
And I like what you said about kind of that Southern charm,
Yes.
similar to Bill Clinton. That's a great comparison. He falls in that category that has historically been so effective. That's a Southern Democrat, dating back to Bill Clinton. I think that's a strong pick. And he has that Southern draw, like that, sitting on the porch, could just speak to you like a normal person. I think that's something like even though Gavin Newsom's a great communicator, he can't replicate that.
Yeah.
So that's a great pick. I wish I thought of that. That's a great pick. Okay, for my fourth pick, I'm gonna go Ruben Gallego from Arizona.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him.
Again, big thing, increasing that exposure. But I know specifically he had pretty bipartisan support on his immigration policies. At least he was able to communicate them well, and I think that's something that Democrats really could use in 2024, and can still use going forward. Again, good communicator, and I think the main thing for him is again getting his name out there, increasing that exposure.
He ran against Carrie Lake.
That's the one concern. That's the one concern I had is he won a race where it's like a mop could have won that race. That is my one concern for him. So I think if he could increase that exposure and maybe get rid of that narrative, so to speak, that he just won a race because the other person was crazy as opposed to him being so great, I think he could make a run.
And also you saw in like swing states too, like in Michigan, for example, Alyssa Slotkin, she won her race by I think a point, but Kamala Harris lost it by a point as well, so close to a point. And also in Wisconsin, like Senator Tammy Baldwin, she won her race narrowly, while Trump won it narrowly. So
Fair enough, yeah. Okay, moving on to our final pick, pick 5.
Well, I would say Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that was the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think was the baggage for her. Like, if you look at Harris, you look at Biden, right? I think she had that kind of baggage on her. Yeah, and also like her messaging. Obviously, the messaging was like freedom or like economy or whatever, but her but this really didn't stick.
Yeah.
Do
you think do you think voters may have a bad taste in their mouths from losing an election in the primary? You think some people may go, oh, well, she lost last time, even though that may not be necessarily fair. Do you think that might stick with voters?
Probably. Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I do think she could potentially do it. I think give it more time. Okay, yeah, solid pick. Got a good lineup, I gotta say. All right. For my 5th pick, I'm gonna take a flyer. I'm gonna go with a bit of an oddball pick here. Like I said, I like the guys who I have so far. I think they're pretty good. So we're gonna swing for the fences. Jon Stewart. Of course, this is a little bit of a less serious pick, but if we're talking about communication skills, he could do it. If we're talking about a debate with J.D. Vance, he could win it. And I seriously know there's been a lot of Democrats, at least on campus who I've talked to, who are like, Jon Stewart 2028. Now, he is older. He also has no experience, but it's the 5th pick. Let's have some fun. I'm going Jon Stewart. Okay, so that concludes our draft. Your lineup was Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, Roy Cooper, and Kamala Harris. Great lineup. Mine is Pete Buttigieg, Wes Moore, Andy Beshear, Ruben Gallego, and Jon Stewart. I gotta say, I think you won. pretty handily. But yeah, I think all these people have a pretty decent shot. Out of all the names we have here, who would you personally want to see most come out of our primary? Whitmer.
Because I feel that, obviously we want to have, women candidates running for president. And I feel like she has that, like a waltz appeal, like Midwestern, governor, folksy, right? Like progressives might even like her too. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely a strong one. I think for me, I'd want to see Pete come out of it.
Okay.
More just as a voter, that's who I would probably vote for first. I would, as a North Carolinian, I'd love to see Roy Cooper come out of a primary.
Yes.
So personal ties there, would love to see that happen. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting. One last thing we can go over here. Who do you think? We talked about the Democratic primary. Who do you think they would meet after the primary on the Republican side?
Well, J.D. Vance is the likely favorite, but I remember this Fox News interview when Donald Trump said, do you see J.D. Vance as a successor? He said, no.
Nope.
But he's pretty good. So
he's good at his job, though.
Yes.
He immediately went into the defense mode.
But also, if you want like other candidates in the primary, I feel like it would be alongside J.D. Vance would be like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Nikki Haley again, or like Vivek. Who else could it be?
You think maybe Marco Rubio might get in the mix?
Maybe, since he is in the Trump administration as Secretary of State. Yeah, I could see that, but also I would not be surprised to see Donald Trump Jr.
That's the name that's been floating around the last few days for sure.
Yeah, I would not be surprised to see him, but I don't think he has that kind of the same appeal as Donald Trump. So
he doesn't have that
yeah
magic, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be an interesting match if Don Jr. got out of a primary. That'd be interesting. Probably, I would assume a win for the Democrats in that case. But yeah, this is definitely gonna be interesting coming up in 2028. One final question I have for you, and then we can let you go. How do you feel like the messaging for the Democratic Party needs to change from 2024 to 2028 to appeal in a national election?
Well, follow Trump's playbook. Easy, simple as that. Because Democrats, I feel like they just play nice too much, right? Like I remember, you did you watch the State of the Union?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah, I watched the whole of it too, and yeah, just on my small phone. But yeah, like when okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene, if this was like 14 years ago, she would be censured immediately.
Oh,
right?
immediately, yeah.
But like Al Green being censured, including 10 Republicans. Now, if they were a uniting party, like if they didn't want to like censure him, they could have just maybe voted present or maybe abstained, but didn't do that. And I kind of understand why the 10 Democrats voted to censure him. Some of them are in like districts that Trump won, so I can understand that. But for their political career, if they ever want to go into higher office, they should have voted to abstain or voted present. And you even saw the government shutdown. AOC did disagree with Chuck Schumer of his voting with to avert the government shutdown. So you could see that there are some like deep divides. But also on the plus side, like you've been seeing these local races, particularly one in the Iowa State Senate race, in a Trump plus 27 district. The Republican candidate only won it by 3 points in Iowa. And also there was the first special race anywhere in the country, and also in Iowa, where the Democrat actually flipped the seat, and I think it was by 3 points, but it was by a few votes. So in these races as examples, you can see that maybe the messaging is working out because in these local Senate races, because of the Doge and the town hall things, especially one that happened in Chuck Edwards' district in Western North Carolina, where people get kicked out for saying their opinion. Even there was a Republican senator from Kansas who just left in the middle of the town hall, and he's up for re-election in 2026. So, yeah.
Yeah, so follow the playbook. I hear you.
Yeah.
Do you think that would inherently cause a shift in maybe the issues you focus on, or is it just about the packaging of those issues?
It's just about the packaging of the issues. Like our generation is changing. Our society is becoming more progressive by the day, month, year. So I feel that if Democrats really want to win, they probably need to kind of trend more liberal, right? So I think that would be better for the Democratic Party, and also in the House of Representatives, we lost 2 seats because there were 2 people that who were in the older age, like either died from like cancer or like I think there was a person in Houston who I think died just hours after the State of the Union address. So I feel that we need to have much younger candidates, or like candidates like of course younger, like Maxwell Frost, up until like the 50 some range. So I feel like we need to field more young candidates.
Yeah, I agree. I know there's a bit of indecision right now in the Democratic Party of how to move forward, specifically in the state. I worked for the Harris Walls campaign as a campus fellow last semester.
Oh yeah, I saw you.
And talking to like my supervisors now, I've gotten such stark opinions from them with a bunch of contrasts. Some believe we need to double down and it's just about the packaging, like you said. Others think that there is a need for genuine moderation in the stances. I definitely lean more towards your viewpoint. I think, again, it's a lot about getting younger politicians in there and changing the packaging. But yeah, I guess that's just something that on the national level we're going to have to figure out.
How did you get invested in politics?
How did I? It's always been something I've been kind of interested in dating back into high school. I've always tried to stay somewhat informed. The more I got into it, I guess you could say the more left-leaning I became. I would still consider myself somewhat towards the middle, but I definitely do lean left. Especially on like many social issues. Then I got on campus this semester, and I was like, okay, I know I'm really passionate about politics. How can I get involved? I saw that there was a Zoom meeting with Jeff Jackson, like a webinar.
The state attorney general now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't be surprised if he runs for governor.
I agree.
I wanted him to run in the Senate race in 2022. I feel like he would have been a more powerful candidate too. But yeah, continue.
Oh yeah, no problem. I attended that. Met 2 people. I met someone who went on to be my supervisor as a campus fellow, who got me interested in volunteering and then eventually getting me the job. And then I met someone with the North Carolina Student Legislature who they like write resolutions and bills on campus. They debate them in their statewide meetings with other schools, and then they send them into the GA. And there's about a 40% chance of them becoming state law. So those are the 2 main avenues, I guess. I joined Charlotte Democrats, and I started with the content creation, and yeah, I guess that's up to the current point what I've done. But yeah, I guess what I say all that to say is throughout all those experiences, I just continue to get more and more invested, try to learn more and more. And I guess that's kind of my story of how I got invested. What about you?
For me, it was actually more of it was like during the pandemic, 2020 election too. But really in the beginning there was a I don't know if you remember this, but in 2017 there was this Alabama Senate special race, like a U.S. Senate race that was open, because somebody joined the Trump administration. So it was impossible for a Democrat to get it, to win it, and a week before the election, there was some scandal against a Republican candidate, and the Democratic candidate won by less than the point in Alabama. And when I saw that race live, right, that's when I was like, oh, that is very interesting. So I started to follow up. I started following on the 2018 midterms as well. And then really I got invested in politics in like 2020. And I've followed elections, whether they are scheduled or special, every year since 2020. Like, for example, the races that I'm looking at are the special races in Florida and New York State. But I think the major race is going to be in the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, where the majority is a 4-3 liberal majority. So and they have elections like year round in Wisconsin. So I feel that this might be the race that might determine what's the political atmosphere is.
Yeah.
Especially in a swing state like Wisconsin, right? So
yeah, for sure. That's really interesting. I think a lot of people definitely can share your experience that 2020 was like a defining time where they got invested. But yeah.
And I was I'm sorry, but I was now I went to like a very private Christian school, right? So, but I was kind of like the lone Democrat.
No, yeah.
Right. So and I think I was and I don't hate on my school. You know, very influential people. They were nice, right? And I live in Durham County. So, and it's the most Democratic leaning county since like 2008. Still is. And but I think what made me learn from that experience is that everybody has different views, especially political views. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of a learning curve that we all have to have, is how do you interact with someone who has opposing views? And that's kind of why I want to have this, is because I can help kind of show. Now, I know you and I probably agree on a lot, but at least just from what I've heard here, but I know that it's important to show how we can talk about politics at our age, and show that it doesn't have to be this taboo subject that we just never touch on, that we need to talk about it. And second, that when we do talk about it, it doesn't need to be such a heated confrontation. I know a lot of people, and I used to, I'm going to be so for real, when I first got into politics, anytime I talked to someone about it that I knew I disagreed with, I'd go into it like, oh, let me prove them wrong, let me show them why I'm smarter and all this stuff. And very quickly I learned that's a terrible way to go about it. And it's kind of that learning curve, and the way I look at it now is, if I talk to someone, say, who's more conservative, I'm not only trying to test my own logic and test my own beliefs, but also understand why they believe what they believe. Especially like with canvassing with the campaign, that was something I really had to help hone in on and develop. And I feel like that's just a learning curve that we kind of all have, is learning how to have those interactions and make them meaningful. Because at the end of the day, if we just spend the whole conversation disagreeing with each other and talking over each other and not understanding what the other is saying, then what was the point? We're gonna walk out of here, nothing's changed. And the final thing I'll say on this is, the best thing that I hope for in a political interaction, or even like religious interactions or philosophical debates, is I hope the other person provides me with some crazy explanation and convinces me. I think that would be great if someone can genuinely change my mind. And now, with that said, in some instances, that'll take a lot to do, a good bit of evidence, but yeah, I think we just need to remain open-minded and learn how to have those interactions. And that's something I bet you definitely had to learn at that high school. But yeah, with that being said, I know we're getting low on time, but I really appreciate you coming on. This is a great conversation. Congratulations on winning the draft, unofficially at least. I'll put a poll on there and we can see what the people think. But I feel like it's gonna bode well for you. But yeah, I think this is a good conversation. Is there anything else you want to tell the people at home?
No, that's it. Thank you for joining.
I agree. Thank you for joining. With that being said, I've been Lucas. This is Martin, and I will catch you on the next one. All right. So let's see our time. Again, it's totally cool that we went over.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it was a good conversation.